Hey everyone, buckle up. We're diving deep into the wild world of supply chain innovation. It's late 2024, and let me tell you, things are moving fast. But don't worry, we're here to break it all down, and we've got the perfect guide. Masood Khan and his awesome podcast, Supply Chain Savvy.
It's a fantastic resource. Masood always has his finger on the pulse and gets these great conversations going, so we'll get a real sense of what's changing and, more importantly, what it all means.
Exactly, so no time to waste, let's jump right in. Masood kicks things off with, get this, machines that can predict their own breakdown.
Sounds crazy, right?
It does, but he explains how sensors on equipment are already feeding data to AI, catching those little red flags before things go haywire. So is this really happening, or is this still sci-fi territory?
Oh, it's happening, and it's a game changer. Think about jet engines. They're already using sensors and AI to schedule maintenance, preventing those nightmare scenarios of unexpected downtime.
So fewer delays, smoother operations. I bet that translates to some serious cost savings too.
Absolutely. And it's not just about fixing things before they break. Masood also talks about AI optimizing spare parts inventory. Remember those massive warehouses, just in case? Yeah, those might be a thing of the past.
Just case is out, just in time is in. That's got to have huge ripple effects.
Huge. Imagine the cost savings, not just for the companies, but potentially for all of us. Think about the price of everything from the clothes we wear to the food on our tables. It could mean big changes.
It's mind-blowing when you think about it. Okay, ready for another big one? Blockchain. Now, I'll admit, I still get a little lost in the weeds with blockchain sometimes.
It can be a bit much, all the technical jargon.
Right. But Masood breaks it down nicely. He talks about how it can track a product's whole journey, from creation to, get this, recycling.
And it's not just about tracking, it's about transparency. Imagine picking up a product, any product, and seeing where it came from, how it was made, its entire impact. That's the potential of blockchain.
And consumers are demanding that now more than ever. Transparency, ethical sourcing, sustainability.
Exactly. And that's what makes this so interesting. It's not just tech for tech's sake. It's about meeting a real need.
And get this, he even talks about using blockchain to reward people for recycling.
Tokenized incentives, he called them. It's like getting points for doing something good for the planet.
See, I told you this was cool. Okay, let's shift gears a bit and talk about how tech is shaking up warehouses and deliveries. First up, augmented reality. AR Masood paints this picture of workers having these visual guides right there in their field of vision. No more clunky clipboards.
Imagine the efficiency. No more fumbling around trying to decipher instructions. AR can walk you through each step, make sure you're grabbing the right item every time, even connect you with a remote expert if something goes wrong.
It's like having X-ray vision for logistics. And speaking of futuristic tech, Supply Chain Savvy also explores the rise of those delivery robots. We're not just talking drones here, although those are cool too. Think robots, on the ground, navigating sidewalks, bringing your packages right to your door.
We're not quite there yet, though. As Masood points out, there are still some hurdles to overcome, like infrastructure and safety regulations.
Sure, but it's definitely an exciting development to keep an eye on.
Yeah.
Okay, last but certainly not least, we need to talk about a trend that might sound a bit dry at first, but trust me, this one's huge. AI-driven dynamic pricing and capacity allocation. Yeah, no, it's a mouthful, but stay with me.
Essentially, it's about AI making pricing decisions on the fly, using a whole bunch of factors, competitors, what people are saying online, even the weather.
Imagine, like, the price of groceries changing throughout the day based on demand or what's happening in the world.
It's already happening in some ways, right? Think about ride-sharing apps or how airline tickets seem to go up when you need them most. This is taking that to a whole new level, and yeah, it could be a bit of an adjustment.
Definitely something to keep an eye on. But let's go back to this idea of everything being connected. It's not just about these individual technologies, right?
Yeah.
It's how they all work together.
Exactly. We're talking about a future where AI is analyzing mountains of data from the entire supply chain. Blockchain is there, making sure everything is transparent and trustworthy. Robots are handling the heavy lifting, and AR is giving humans superpowers.
It's like the supply chain is becoming this smart, interconnected organism, constantly adapting and evolving. Okay, so what does all of this mean for the average person just going about their day?
Well, one of the most immediate impacts will be things running more smoothly. Imagine supply chains that can react instantly to any kind of disruption. A sudden surge in demand, a natural disaster, you name it. These intelligent systems can adjust on the fly, minimizing those disruptions and making sure we get what we need when we need it.
Okay, so more resilience, less chaos. That's definitely a win. But are there any challenges in getting all these different technologies to work together seamlessly? I imagine it's not always a walk in the park.
You're right, there are definitely hurdles. One of the biggest ones is making sure that all these different systems can actually talk to each other, share data without any hiccups.
Right, because what good is all that data if it's stuck in silos?
Exactly. We need to develop some ground rules, make sure everyone is speaking the same language. And of course, we can't forget about the human element. People are still a vital part of the equation, so we need to make sure they have the skills to thrive in this new landscape.
So reskilling, upskilling, that's going to be key. And speaking of humans, one thing that really caught my attention in the podcast was how AI can actually help with food security issues. That seems like a really powerful application. Can you elaborate on that a bit?
Absolutely. Masood gave this example of AI-powered drones that can scan entire fields, looking for signs of disease or pests before they even become visible to the human eye. That early detection means farmers can take action right away, minimizing crop loss.
It's like giving farmers a crystal ball. And that's got to have a huge impact on food production, especially in parts of the world facing challenges from climate change.
Exactly, and this is just one example. The podcast touched on how these innovations could revolutionize other areas as well, like healthcare.
Oh, now you're speaking my language. I'm all ears. How can these technologies transform something as complex as healthcare?
Well, imagine using blockchain to create a secure, tamper-proof record of pharmaceuticals, making sure patients are getting authentic medications. Or think about AI optimizing hospital logistics, making sure critical supplies are always available, exactly when and where they're needed.
Wow, that's incredible. It's like we're moving towards a future where technology is helping us solve some of our biggest challenges.
We are, and what's really exciting is that we're just starting to scratch the surface of what's possible.
It's a lot to take in, that's for
Yeah.
sure. So before we move on, what was your biggest takeaway from the podcast? What really stood out to you?
Honestly, it wasn't so much one specific thing, but more like the bigger picture that Masood was painting. He really drove home the point that these supply chain innovations, they're not just happening in isolation, It's all part of this massive shift, this tech revolution that's touching every part of our lives.
Right, like we're not just talking about moving boxes around more efficiently. This is about a fundamental change in how everything works.
Exactly. It's a new era of interconnectedness, automation, data driving every decision. And the implications are huge, not just for how we make and buy things, but for how we tackle those big global challenges like climate change, resource scarcity, you name it.
It's exciting, for sure, but I can see how it could be a little overwhelming too.
Yeah.
So for our listeners who've been with us on this journey, what's the one thing you hope they take away from all of this?
I think the biggest takeaway is this. As these technologies keep evolving and reshaping our world, we can't just sit back and watch it happen. We need to be a part of it, shaping how it unfolds.
So not just passive observers, but active participants in creating this future.
Absolutely. Ask the tough questions. How can we use these innovations responsibly? How do we make sure they benefit everyone, not just a select few? And what can we, as individuals, do to prepare for these changes and adapt?
Big questions, no doubt, but important ones. It's clear that the future of supply chains is about so much more than logistics. It's about leveraging technology to build a better world, more efficient, more sustainable, and more equitable for everyone. Thanks for joining us for this incredible deep dive into the future. Until next time, stay curious and keep asking those questions.